Hey, so today I'm going to show you how to make this. Though, by the way, just before you watch this video, I just want to say something. Don't ever think that this is one of those builds that's going to be like, oh man, it's going to be really difficult, so I'm not ever going to try it ever. To be honest, it's really not that hard. Just go to Ace Hardware, get some thin sheet metal, and just have some faith in yourself. Make a template out of paper for your gauntlet and then put it together to make sure everything's correct and the sizing fits your hand. Then trace the parts onto your steel. If you're using 22 gauge, you could just use tin snips. If you're using 16 gauge, you could still use tin snips. But if you don't, I'd recommend using an angle grinder. It just makes cutting 16 gauge a lot easier and it's a lot faster. Now it's cut out, but you may realize that it has a lot of sharp edges, so now you're just going to use a grinder to grind off those edges and get it to shape a little bit more. Here's what it should look like whenever you're done grinding it on the bench grinder. If you want, you can use like a sandpaper or a sand pad or something to get it even smoother, but it's not really needed if you have a leather glove. Just make sure there's nothing like insanely sharp, but really just see how profiled that is. Like, that's what you want on the gauntlet that you're making. And now do the exact same thing on your finger plates and shape them however you desired. I actually welded or brazed the fingertips on mine. So, I mean, you can do that if you want to, but if you do it, make sure you sand it and get all the crud off. Use a pipe or something to bend the vambrace parts and any other parts that you want shaped on the gauntlet just to make it fit your hand a little bit better. Use a punch to punch in any holes you might need for rivets or decoration, etc. I just sort of welded this bolt or this head of a bolt here or nut just for some decoration to make it look cooler and more futuristic. You can use a wire wheel like this connected to a drill to sand off your pieces much faster, and this is actually what I've been using for the entire video. You could just use this instead of sandpaper, but if you'd like a nicer finish, the sandpaper is a better way to go. This is just to get the oxidation and all the crud off. One thing I thought that was worth mentioning was that I used a Dremel tool and I put it in my little drill here, and I really marked up the backside a lot because I'm going to be using, well, if you're going to be using a epoxy, you're going to want something to grip onto the back of that. So I mean, you could just not do this, but I mean, if you really want it to stick, this is a good idea. Now use the 5-minute epoxy or rivets to glue on all the finger pieces. Yay, finally, I could finally take it off since the epoxy dried. If you made a palm piece, now's the time to put it on. I used rivets in this area because it's a really movable area and the epoxy might become loose. And to shape it, I did not use the pipe because you have to shape it to your palm. I used the end of my anvil and a hammer just to get these curves on. And while you're at it, rivet on your vambrace and the back plate too. Oh, and just by the way, I added this hole in my gauntlet so I can still use my watch. So that's pretty cool, but if you don't have a watch, then you just have a random hole in your gauntlet. So, I don't know, the hole's completely optional. And after all that, your gauntlet is complete. So that was, I had a lot of fun building this, and actually the only reason why I made it was for relay day at school. And here's the watch hole. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.